Controller. The controller doesn't announce themselves. They don't walk in and say, I plan to run your life. It starts much smaller than that. They want to know where you are. They have opinions about who you spend time with. They get quiet or upset when things don't go their way. And at first, it can feel like they just care, like they're invested, like you matter to them. But over time, the circle gets smaller. Your friends become a problem. Your family causes tension. The things you used to do alone, the places you used to go, the decisions you used to make without a second thought, all of it starts to require their approval. And if you push back, they'll tell you you're being difficult or selfish, or that they just love you and don't understand why that's such a problem. That's how control works. It reframes itself as care. It disguises itself as loyalty. But real love doesn't shrink you. It doesn't need to know your password or your location at all times. It doesn't make you feel like your independence is a betrayal. So what do? You pay attention to the pattern. When someone's love consistently costs you your freedom, that's not love. That's ownership. And you don't belong to anyone. The narcissist. The narcissist is one of the most talked about toxic types and still one of the most misunderstood. Because in the beginning, they don't feel toxic. They feel magnetic, confident, exciting, like someone who really sees you, and they do see you, but not the way you think. They see what you can give them, the admiration, the attention, the way you make them feel important. The relationship starts with them at the center, and slowly, quietly, you get pushed further from your own needs. Your feelings are too much. Your concerns are an inconvenience. When something goes wrong, it's your fault. When something goes right, it's their success. They can't take accountability because their entire sense of self depends on being right. Being wrong to them feels like becoming worthless. So they'll do almost anything to avoid it, twist the story, flip the blame, make you question whether you were even hurt at all. And the cruelest part is the cycle. They'll go cold, then suddenly warm again, just enough to keep you hoping for the version of them you first fell for. The one who made you feel chosen. That version was real, but it was also a strategy. So what do? You stop trying to fix them. You stop explaining yourself to someone who is more committed to winning than to understanding you. Narcissists don't change because you love them harder. They change when they choose to, and that's not your responsibility to wait around for. The perpetual victim. The perpetual victim is exhausting in a way that's hard to put into words, because nothing is ever their fault. Not the argument that started because of something they did. Not the pattern you've brought up 12 times. Not the impact they had on you, which they'll immediately redirect into a story about how hard things are for them. They always have something going wrong. And in the beginning, your heart goes out to them. You want to show up. You want to help. That's not a flaw. That's your kindness. But the perpetual victim doesn't want to get better. They want to be witnessed. And if you stop performing that witness, if you set a boundary or stop absorbing their chaos, suddenly you become the villain, the one who abandoned them, the one who doesn't care. It turns care into a trap. The more you give, the more is expected. And if you ever have needs of your own, they get buried under whatever they're currently going through. Because there's always something, always. So what do? You get honest with yourself about whether the support is mutual. Compassion isn't the same as carrying someone who refuses to carry themselves. You can care about a person and still decide you can't be their only lifeline. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation. The jealous one. A little jealousy is human. But the jealous partner uses jealousy the way other people use a leash. It starts with a comment here, a look there. They don't like that person you work with. They think your friend is a bad influence. They have a problem with how you dressed, who you laughed with, what you posted. And because you don't want conflict, you start adjusting. You share your location without being asked. You change your plans. You start lying about small things. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because the truth always seems to start a fight. And that shift, that moment when you start editing yourself to avoid their reaction, is the moment jealousy becomes control. They'll tell you it's because they love you so much, that they can't stand the thought of losing you. But jealousy that turns into surveillance and isolation isn't love. It's fear turned outward. And you shouldn't have to shrink your entire life to manage someone else's insecurity. So what do? You stop treating their jealousy like your problem to solve. You can be reassuring, you can be honest, but you cannot be their entire emotional regulation system. If the jealousy keeps coming no matter what you do, it was never really about you. And no amount of changing yourself will ever be enough. The emotionally unavailable one. The emotionally unavailable partner is a specific kind of painful because it's so quiet. There's no yelling, no obvious cruelty, just distance. A wall you keep running into. You try to connect and they deflect. You bring something emotional and they go practical. You say, "I need to talk," and something in the room shifts, goes flat, goes somewhere far away. They might be charming in public, fun with friends, perfectly pleasant on the surface. But when it's just you two, when it gets real, they disappear. Not physically, just emotionally. And you'll spend so much time and energy trying to crack that wall, trying to be the one who finally gets through, that you forget to notice how little you're actually getting back. The relationship starts to feel one-sided because it is. You're doing all the emotional heavy lifting. You're bringing depth and vulnerability, and they're offering just enough to keep you from leaving. Not enough to make you feel truly seen. So what do? You stop auditioning for a role in someone's life they're not ready to offer. Emotional availability isn't something you can inspire in someone who isn't willing to face themselves. You deserve presence, not just proximity. Someone who shows up for the real parts, not just the easy ones. The critic. The critic rarely sounds like an abuser. They sound like someone who cares about your improvement. They'll say they're just being honest, that they have high standards, that they wouldn't point things out if they didn't want you to be better. It sounds almost generous, but over time, you start noticing that nothing is ever quite right. The way you dress, the way you talk, the decisions you make, the job you have, the way you laugh, all of it becomes material. And the feedback never stops. You start bracing yourself before you share good news because somehow they'll find the flaw in it. You stop telling them things because you already know how it's going to land. That's what consistent criticism does. It's not sharpening you. It's slowly convincing you that you are the problem, that you need them to see yourself clearly. And by the time you've internalized that voice, their voice, you can't even tell anymore what you actually think about yourself. So what do? You start paying attention to how you feel after conversations, not during, when you might be numb to it. After. Do you feel better or worse about yourself? Real love sees your flaws and holds space for them. It doesn't weaponize them. You are not a project. The hot and cold. The hot and cold partner keeps you off balance by design, even if they don't realize it. One day they're warm, attentive, everything you wanted. The next they're distant, irritable, unreachable. You don't know which version you're getting. So you stop fully relaxing. You start reading the room before you speak. You walk carefully, speak carefully, feel carefully, because you never know when the temperature is going to drop. The highs feel incredible because the lows are so disorienting. That contrast is what makes it addictive. Your brain starts chasing the warmth and dreading the cold. And before you know it, you've organized your entire emotional life around their mood. Around a pattern that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. This kind of relationship creates a constant low hum of anxiety. You can't settle. You can't trust the good moments because you're always waiting for them to end. And that waiting wears you down quietly, in ways you don't even notice until you're finally somewhere safe and you realize how exhausted you've been. So what do? You stop trying to explain the weather. When someone's behavior is this inconsistent, it's not a mystery to solve. Stability isn't boring. Stability is the foundation that lets love actually grow. And you deserve a relationship where the good doesn't feel fragile. Here's what all of these types have in common. They each find a way to make you the variable. Like if you just adjusted, just understood better, just loved harder, or asked for less, or held on longer, things would finally work. But they don't, because the problem was never you. Recognizing a toxic partner isn't about labeling someone or winning an argument about who was worse. It's about getting clear, seeing the pattern for what it actually is, not what you hoped it would become. Because once you see it clearly, it becomes much harder for anyone to talk you out of what you know. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to decide that less than you deserve isn't something you'll keep accepting, and you don't have to wait until things get worse to make that decision. You can make it right now.